Hello, Misfits, and welcome. In today's video, we're talking about everything you need to know before you go to the Ren Faire. I know this is not my usual D&D talk, but I just got back from going to a Ren Faire, which is one of my absolute favorite things to do, and I think there is quite a substantial amount of crossover between enjoying a trip to a Ren Faire and enjoying a game at the table. I think both involve kind of stepping out of our own reality and enjoying something a bit more imaginative and fantastical, a little bit of escapism, if you will. I've made a video about going to a Ren Faire before, but that was more of a review of the Ren Faire itself. This is going to be helpful tips and information for you so that you know what you need before you go, you know what to do when you're there and stuff like that. So I'm hoping to impart some wisdom and offer a helping hand for those of you that haven't been before and would like a little bit of advice. I just got back from the Georgia Renaissance Festival's Fall Fling, a brand new fall event. So their Renaissance Festival is typically only in the spring, but this year they decided to do a brand new experience happening in the fall. This was set up at a different time than normal. This was more like late afternoon into the evening, which was a totally different vibe. It was definitely like a smaller capacity kind of situation, and it was great and so much fun, and it's definitely inspired me to make a video talking about Ren Fairs again because I just love them so much and I want to talk about them. So let's get into these things you need to know before you go to your next fair. First things first, I would recommend you get your tickets ahead of time. This makes the process just a little bit quicker when it comes to getting into the fair. A lot of people get there early and show up when it opens. So if you wait until then to get your ticket, you're probably going to have to wait in that line before you then wait in the other line to get into the actual festival, and you don't want to do that. Also, sometimes if you buy online, the price is lower, which is great. Another reason to buy your ticket ahead of time is to make sure you get a ticket. Tons of fairs don't have you specify the weekend that you intend to go. You know, you get a ticket and it's kind of good for like any weekend, but some do. Some need you to specify the date that you're going, and they could sell out, so it's a reason to get your ticket ahead of time. Perfect example, this fall fling that Georgia was doing, it was a limited capacity. It was definitely like a smaller crowd size than what they normally do in the spring, and the weekend that I went sold out. So luckily, we got our tickets ahead of time and there was no problem, but that's definitely something to be mindful of. The next thing you really should do is check the fair's website for important information. This might seem like a given, but not everybody does this, so here I am telling you to do it. On any like Renaissance Festival's website, generally you're gonna find information that can help you know what accommodations they can make for people with dietary restrictions, or information about parking, or themed weekends, or even the list of vendors and performers set to be there. It can even tell you the rules on what you're allowed to bring in, like weapons, or water, or food, or pets. So there's a lot of valuable information to be found on the websites for these various Renaissance festivals. So absolutely check that out before you go. The next thing you really should do is wear comfortable shoes. You're going to be on your feet like the entire day, and for most of these places, it's not like a paved walkway. It's like gravel or dirt. So, wear comfortable shoes that you are going to be able to be in the entire day, and your feet aren't going to be just killing you by the end of the day. And that means that if you buy shoes specifically for the outfit that you're gonna wear to the fair, you need to break those in. You need to wear those for a significant amount of time earlier before you go to the fair and see how they hold up. Are they gonna be comfortable, or are you going to be miserable? Next thing, and this is huge, bring cash, and like a lot of it if you plan to buy stuff. So most of the vendors that are at these things really only accept cash, and a lot of the performers, you're going to want to tip them, so you need to bring some cash with you. This is really, really important, and you know, a lot of these things that are at these fairs are handmade. Some of them are made there on site, and sometimes to your specifications. So while it is not the cheapest, it's really high quality stuff, and you're gonna want it. You're gonna see all that wonderful stuff out there, and you're gonna want a piece of it. So make sure you bring enough cash to, you know, account for that. In my most recent trip, there wasn't really a ton of stuff I was looking to buy, except maybe just like a really nice hat. So I brought like $200 just to be safe. I knew I would be eating lunch and dinner there, and there would be snacks and drinks that I would want. I would want at least one substantial purchase and then enough cash left over to, you know, just account for any other miscellaneous things I saw that I just had to have. So that's what I took. I definitely only spent like a fraction of it, but still, it was nice to have that there. One of the first times I went, I knew that I really wanted to buy like a sword. So I think I brought like $400 or something like that, because I just wasn't quite sure the cost of things, and I just wanted to have some wiggle room to account for that, and that ended up being like a decent amount. I definitely didn't spend all of that, but it's better to have more than not have enough. Some places do have like, you know, means of paying with card, but a lot of times there are extra fees roped into that, whereas with cash, you don't have to pay those. And so it can be a bit more like tedious and frustrating to pay with card than just to pay with cash. At the Georgia Fall Fling, we saw this beautiful cloak with all of this sort of like peacock feather like embroidery all over it, and that cloak cost like $350. It was absolutely gorgeous, but it's not a cheap item. It's worth it, but it's not a cheap item. So, you know, be aware of that. A nice cloak is definitely going to be a triple-digit cost, and a lot of those nice hats can be up there too, so just be mindful of that. The next thing you really want to do is make sure that you are dressing for the appropriate season and weather that you're going to be dealing with. Renaissance festivals happen kind of throughout the year across the states. You've got a bunch that happen in the fall, you've got some that happen in the winter, some that happen in the spring, and some in the summer. It really varies depending on where you are, and you need to be prepared for that. If it's the summer months, you need to bring ways to cool off. Like all the ones close to me, happen in late spring and summer, so it's always hot where I am. I'm in the south, so I always bring a fan. Even like what might look like a dainty or small fan is really going to help you out. I also find that having like a brimmed hat really helps. It kind of shields you from the sun, and you don't really have to like, break the immersion by wearing sunglasses if that's something that bothers you. And if it's going to be cold, then dress appropriately for that. Have a cloak, or have like fleece-lined tights or something. Like, dress warmly so that you are comfortable the whole time. Your next tip would be to eat early. So a lot of times when people enter these fairs, they get distracted by the shows and the shopping, and they kind of wait until like your typical lunchtime to eat. And by the time you roll around and you want to do the same, the line is crazy long, and now you're having to wait a long while before you can get your food. So eat early. If you can eat earlier than normal, then you're going to get that meal and you're not going to have to wait in line too bad. And things will die off again after that sort of lunch rush, and then you can get a snack and eat again if you really need to. This has always worked out for me, and it's always kind of just been a good rule of thumb, and just sort of helps you have a better time, because like the least fun part is waiting in line. So you know, the less you have to do that, the better. Something else that's really important is arriving early. If you know that the fair doesn't open until like 10 or 10:30, then maybe you should get there closer to 9 or 9:30. One, this helps with parking, which will shorten your walk to the entrance, and more importantly, shorten your walk from the entrance to your car when the whole thing is over. Also, this gives you a chance to get peace-tied before you enter the fair itself. If you don't know, or you've never been, if you decide to take a weapon into the fair, like a sword or a dagger, then they're gonna wanna peace tie you. Basically, they zip tie that weapon into its sheath so that you can't whip it out and start stabbing people. This is just generally something that's done at like every single fair, and most of the time, if you get there before the fair opens, people are going around and making sure that you are peace-tied before you enter. If you don't get peace-tied beforehand, then you're gonna have to get peace-tied like the second you get through, which means you're gonna have to stop, and you can't immediately go to your favorite food stop or store. You're gonna have to stop and wait for them to zip tie you, and it just takes up a little bit of time. It's best to get that done early if possible. Another reason to arrive early is that most fairs have some sort of little pre-show that happens right before rope drop. So these are fun to see, kind of gives you a taste of the like vibes or storyline that the fair is trying to put on. And also, sometimes they kind of tell you about the different acts that are going on in the fair. Back when I went in the spring, they told us in the pre-show about this escape artist act that was going to happen, but it was only going to happen once for the entire day. So we wouldn't have known that if we hadn't have seen that kind of like advertisement in the pre-show. And so of course we went over and watched the show, and it was great. So that's another reason, like, get there early. You'll find out some useful information. You can get some stuff taken care of beforehand, and it really helps with parking. This might be a weird one, but if you have allergies, take your meds or be prepared and bring them with you. First off, if you are allergic to the outside world in any capacity, you are gonna want to take something before you go, and maybe also have it with you just in case. I am one such person. I'm allergic to pollen, and I'm allergic to mosquitoes. So I definitely need to take some precautions before I go to these fairs. Second, if your Ren Faire is particularly crowded or busy, or you go on like a really popular weekend, then there's going to be way more dust and stuff kicked up into the air than what you might be ready for, and this could get in your eyes and really like affect you. One of my good friends, Emily, she went to the Georgia Ren Faire with us in the spring, and she was really affected by all the dust getting kicked up. We went the closing weekend, so there were tons of people there, and by the end of the day, she had gotten so much like dust and dirt in her eyes that they were just like bloodshot red, and she basically couldn't see. I was kind of leading her around like a seeing eye dog, and it was rough. It made it hard to enjoy like the end of the day. And so we definitely had to take some precautions when we went to this fall fling. So if you think you might be one of those people and might be affected in that way, really prepare for that. You could get some really cool like steampunk goggles or something to wear, or wear some glasses, bring some eye drops, something like that. Just be prepared for that. You want to have fun, and when your own body gets in the way of that, it can be really frustrating. So, just account for that as best you can. Last, you need to stake out your seats for whatever the final show is of this fair. Most fairs close with a joust, but some close with some other sort of show or combat something. So you're going to want to stake those seats out. Most people are going to try to rush and watch that as like the last thing they do for the day, which means that particular event can be extremely crowded, especially if it's a joust. Everybody wants to end their day with a joust. So this means that you need to go and like find those seats well ahead of time. I've gone to fairs with ample seating at like the closing event, and I've also gone to fairs with like very limited seating. Georgia is one such place. There's just not a ton of seating at their joust, whereas like Tennessee, every seat's a good seat, but you still need to go stake it out. The sooner you get there, the better. And another reason why you want to stake these seats out is because the sound setup at pretty much any Ren Fair I've been to is not ideal. The speakers just are never loud enough, so if you want to actually hear what's being said, you're going to want to sit as close as possible. And that's it. Those are the things that I think you really need to know before you go to a Ren Fair. I really hope this list is helpful to you guys. I definitely had no idea what to expect when I went to my first one, and so I tried to look up as much as possible to try and be as prepared as possible. But now I want to impart that wisdom onto you guys. So I put it all here in this one video, and hopefully that will be helpful. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this channel, you want to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. That stuff really, really helps me out. But far more importantly, leave a comment down below. What Ren Fairs have you been to? What's your favorite? What's your favorite thing about going to the Ren Fair? I would love to hear all about that. And if you haven't been, tell me about that. Tell me about ones that you want to go to that you've not had the chance yet. I would love to hear from you guys. But with all of that said and done, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and I'll see you again next time. I decided to go to this Ren Fair as a witch. It's sort of it's the fall season. I felt like witchy vibes were what I needed. I had everything for my costume except for the hat, so I waited and I got that at the fair, and I think it's great. It was a little bit pricey, but I think it was totally worth it, and now I'm super ready for, the Wicked movie, which is coming out soon. I'm a big musical theater person, so I'm very excited about that, but I think my hat was the right choice. What do you think? I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for a good hat. I'm a sucker for a good costume piece, so it was totally a lot of fun. I really hope they do this fall fling again next year, because I had an absolute blast. And it's a totally different vibe being at a fair that's open at night. All the lights were lit up, and it was just so magical. It was so nice, in the sort of a cooler breeze because the sun had set. It was really, really cool. I really hope they continue to do that again. But I'm also just really looking forward to going back in the spring with my D&D group. That's gonna be a blast. But anyway, hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you next time.